among the picks and bans, understanding where you need to ban versus pick and what you can trade because we're getting something similar in the same role. It's where all the skill comes in, and a lot of games are determined at this part of the game.
Well, continuing the track record, so far today, Odin has been the first ban in every single game. The Bolts are going to keep that one rolling forward. And if you watched on Thursday, you know why. Nika on Odin is too much to handle. In the first game, it was troublesome. The second game, it's the reason they won against the Kings. And so that's going to be shut down immediately. Ymir and the Artemis. So they're starting to hit a lot of this checklist. But aggro, again, it comes at the cost of letting some of these other really powerful picks through. I think we were talking, I can't remember which support I was talking to. It might have been during the Scarabs Media Day. Maybe it was during the Titans Media Day. But someone just straight up said, they were like last year, we didn't have to worry about Jake's Yamoja.
Right.
Now we have to be scared of Jake's Yamoja. And that is a switch that a lot of these teams needed to flip last year and were struggling with. And that's the way it is with a lot of gods now out of the support for the Bolts.
Yeah, it is. Adding that into your god pool, turns out adding like one of the best gods in your role to your god pool makes you harder to pick and ban against.
Are you telling me that tier support isn't going to always be
Yeah, that's
bannable?
what I'm telling you. Look, tier support can be very good in the right moments, but
for Jake,
play Emoja. That's really the moral of the story. I love the strategy that the Warriors have gone for here, though, because you know that of the supports that are being played right now, it's a lot of late-game peel options.
Yeah.
Jake does not play a lot of those. It's really Yamoja that fits that bill. So I'd be banning that from him every game or first picking it away. I don't think that Jake is the type of player that's going to go to something like Terra. And I think Terra, with those three supports off the board, Ymir, Yamoja, and Fafnir, I think of Yamoja as Terra as your best option. And I don't think the Bolts put you under a whole lot of threat in order to take that. So this makes sense to me, the way they picked and banned. They're willing to handshake trade mages, and because the Bolts don't take their preference, the Warriors get to take theirs, which is fine. Both mid laners almost certainly willing to play both Morgan and Tiamat. Hello. Okay.
Yeah.
So this changes everything. Because where the hell is this Morgan Le Fay going, or where is this Tiamat going is the real question.
And it ruined everything I was going to say, which was, hey, well, they first off, I wanted to talk about the fact that they first picked Osiris over Tiamat, but now I was going to be, oh, well, you trade 1 for 1, right?
Right, it's
theoretically.
Fine. But this is, okay, so this is like they'll never take both, right?
This is how we get so lost in the middle of a picks and bans, is plays like things like that.
Right, yeah, is going double mage. We have seen Vote play some mages during that mage duo lane meta, and the infamous Raijin game still lives rent-free in my head. Maybe it shouldn't. Maybe it will go to Vote. Maybe it won't. Maybe we saw Tiamat solo lane when she first came out. She's been nerfed in that direction since then because her damage mitigation in the grounded stance requires her to build magical power, and so it's harder for her to be tanky in the solo lane. But I think it might be Nika on Tiamat and Dardes on Morgan.
That feels right? Like from what we've seen out of these two picks,
Maybe?
It feels like Tiamat fits more in the solo lane. Maybe though it is Morgan Le Fay for Vote. We'll have to see, I guess, as it continues to shake out. We'll let that one sort itself out as we watch the rest of the Warriors draft. I just want to throw this out there. Tiamat has been first picked the most of any god so far this year.
Yep.
If she is available, that's almost immediately what every team does. I mean, we just saw with the Scarabs. It didn't matter whether or not they thought they were going to win. Tiamat, it was more important to have her than let your opponent have her.
Yeah.
There was, at one point, a conversation of, oh, well, we get Tiamat, you get Morgan. That's not happening anymore. But Osiris over Tiamat showcases where the Bolt's precedence is. Not only that, but they get it with the Erlang, so it wasn't like a Lasbra jungle pickup.
Right.
It was for the solo lane.
I think it is we don't think there's a massive difference between Tiamat and Morgan. Let's get Osiris, which we think is really good, and we think they'll take. And we'll just take whatever one they don't. So then the Warriors throw a wrench in the plan by taking both. But I think that's where the Bolts were. And if I'm the Warriors right here, yeah, Terra is an obvious lock-in. I'm frankly pretty shocked that Erlang Shen is seeing any play with Terra in meta, because I think that this is a horrible matchup for him. He gets rooted, and he's dead. Like, there is not a whole lot that character can do about it. No innate CC immunity. You have to be the initiator. You have to be blinking in early. And certainly that could be the case, whether it's Haddix or Lasbra. Something tells me it might be Haddix, because I think the last time they picked these two gods, it was Osiris jungle, Erlang solo, which is pretty unorthodox. But this Terra pick, which I think was an obvious one for the Warriors with all the supports they've banned, has such a good matchup against the Erlang Shen that I'm surprised that they locked it in before getting the opportunity to see if they were going to pick it.
Now we get into another fun position, and this is maybe for Venenu more than anybody. Tiamat taken. Morgan Le Fay stripped away from you as well. The Morgan now taken away. Merlin is up there on his list of gods, but then you really start to get into the, okay, let's test how well you're going to handle these mids.
Well, that's the thing, is that even though this big brain play here from the Warriors happens where they take both top-tier mages, and they are the 2 top-tier mages in my mind, Morgan, Raijin, and Merlin are all really good picks for Ven, and you can't ban all 3. So now Ven is going to get one of those 3, and if I'm the Warriors, I'm going with exactly something like this, where I'm dictating which god I think Venenu is most likely to play and that we can actually abuse. So now I'm looking at assassins that can actually get on top of a Merlin and really punish him. And if you're willing to commit to both mages top 2, in my mind, the whole game plan has to be to kill Ven in this game and to shut down Ven in particular. Because otherwise, you just got him on a marginally worse pick that he's still really good at. So I want to see the Warriors pick something for Fred that is designed to kill what I would assume to be Merlin, but whatever mage Ven ends up falling for, because overall, you pick the top 2 in your role. And
I will always gladly eat. When I hyped this up thinking, oh man, we're going to see so many solo lane bans. Odin was the only one, realistically, that came through. Maybe you could try to convince me Gilgamesh was thrown over there. But the bolts focus out the Finra and the Serket. It was the Raijin alongside that, the Morrigan there for Oni Warriors banned away. So we won't have any Morgan and Morrigan in the same game.
Thank
Makes
goodness.
Very, very convenient for Dave and Taco. And it's going to be 2 H-gods locked in here, Hell and Hachiman. Now, I will say Hell, we've seen Paul play, and I think mainly Paul play, and Hachiman been, well, that man playing, and so it's going to be an interesting one. I think Bear has pulled it out a couple of times, but it hasn't necessarily been the go-to. In fact, I think they might have played it. It was either earlier this week or last week. But it's not really what I immediately think of when I think bolts.
No, it isn't, and it's certainly a little bit of a switch up, but it does make some sense to me that Terra has been dominating the late game team fights.
Enough, though, to make it a viable solo laner is another question.
I think it just really all boils down to why not bolt? And I think for the Oni Warriors, given Nika's past performances, it's fair to just throw him onto a god that he can possibly go for a hybrid build on, but up against the likes of Haddix on this Osiris could be problematic just because OC definitely going to have a lot of early laning phase pressure, I would imagine, but the team fight impact that the Tiamat could have is certainly something that the Bolts are going to have to keep in consideration.
Well, Vampiric Shroud is the starter for Nika here, and unfortunately the lane pressure pushing against him just a little bit, maybe when the abilities come back up. Haddix will catch a little volley of that. You have some thoughts there on the Vampiric Shroud instead of waiting for benevolence or something along those lines?
A little uncharacteristic, I think, for Nika. I mean, advantage of kind of transitioning the lane push potential into these buff invades. Haddix already starting to harass Cubo inside of his jungle.
Yeah, Haddix 1 level ahead of Cubo Fred. Nika's here as well. The blue buffs are up, and that means Lasbra's going to be on the Oni Warrior side of the jungle as well. Could be a skirmish over the blue, and there will be a fight happening here. There's an up-down. That's going to knock up Haddix here, but the stun, it connects onto Cubo Fred, and first blood on over to Lasbra. Nika at least got the blue buff, right? I mean, that counts for something, but it's first blood, and it's Lasbra who's got it.
Exchanging a buff for your jungler's life cycle with how to play from behind, I think. And he's certainly a player that is willing to step up to the challenge as he gets invaded one more time. Haddix, though, not going to be successful with that blue buff strip away, having some issues when dealing with the likes of that Tiamat confirmation. However,
pressure somewhere. If you're the Oni Warriors here, Cubo Fred on the Nike maybe could get something going. He's got the blink, but haven't seen it yet.
If you just watch the numbers of the gold on both sides, though, and the way the spieling just jumps, entertaining stuff.
It is entertaining stuff. This is entertaining for the Bolts because they keep doing it. Apparently they love doing this. Dardes will use nothing to walk on out of that taunt there, and will finally use the beads, but that won't save his life. Haddix gets the kill there. That's a 4-man rotation on over to the blue buff, which again gets confirmed by Nika, but at what cost? It's still pressure for the Olympus Bolts on the right side of the map.
And that was with the Oni Warriors being aware of exactly where the Olympus Bolts want to play out of. Trouble hasn't completely dispersed just yet, though. Haddix actually going to get jumped on by Cubo Fred. Cubo looking for the lockdown, but might have just signed his own death warrant here as Lasbra takes him out yet again.
Wow, the stun connects on Nika as well, and Lasbra just wailing away on this Tiamat. Numa rotates through, drops the ultimate down yet again, roots down a couple members of the Volts, but a nice dodge from Haddix avoids the stun. Awesome Jake with the block on Anika sends him right back into the fray. Laz is on a killing spree, Ven's got one, and the Olympus Bolts are off to the races.
A 5-0 start already here
Nika
for the...
is forfeiting some pressure just automatically by playing this pick.
Nika could play a Guardian. He could be on the Odin. It wouldn't make a difference.
Sure.
Every team is going to constantly force Nika to be suppressed because they know if he's behind, it's going to be tough for the Oni Warriors to pick it up elsewhere as the Olympus Bolts now take out the Gold Fury, and map pressure just continues to swing in the Bolts' favor here. Awesome Jake, not willing to give up the chase just yet either. Seems as though he wants to try and take out Nilma.
Yeah, Nilma is going to get taunted in alongside Dardes over on the other side of the mid lane. Venenu's got his second of the game, and the chase goes on. But watch out, Cubo Fred. He's here, drops the ultimate. The slow is connected onto the Olympus Bolts. The shielding as well. You got to get this kill on the Ven. It'll be a big pile of gold trickling its way back to Cubo Fred, but the pluck through from Awesome Jake sets up for the fourth of the game for Lasbra.
Just too much sustain and not enough burst potential from the Oni Warriors. They're already behind. The last thing you want to find yourselves is behind to the healer composition. Venenu already back, full HP, topped up, no problem. And Pyromancer bound to be next on the Olympus Bolts menu here, given the fact they've already taken out the T1 tower in mid. Gold Fury's already been assigned to them as well. And Pyromancer, not really looking to make much of a difference. Venenu, he can back for free here. As Lasbra, Haddix, Awesome Jake, more than enough.
We're officially spiraling here, Taco. We are right at 5K gold. It's going to get worse after this Pyromancer 10 minutes into the game. Maybe that next Fury could be one of the earliest Fire Giants we've seen at the pace that this game is going. You've got Ikavale on both Lasbra and Barracuda, so these objectives likely go down pretty quickly. And why not? If you're Laz, why not? Right? I mean, with the way that this game is going, why not just walk where you please? Let's taunt someone in. And Venenu's there with the Rod of Tahuti. He has a Mantle of Discord, but Rod of Tahuti will be plenty of damage to clean up the kill onto Cubo Fred. And that's a night. That's an 0-4 night.
On the one hand, he did choose to build the Blink early on.
Yeah.
And for good reason. Again, when you have a warrior in that jungle role, you typically want to try and utilize some of that early game impact that warriors tend to have as an advantage over some of the more traditional assassin picks that we see. But T2 Tower looking to join the ranks here for the Olympus Bolts.
Awesome Jake rounds the backside, gets the pluck on Anika, who uses the beads quickly. Neilma's alone here underneath the tier 1, has his ultimate and blink. He's able to get out of combat for any period of time. Oh, Haddix locked off to the side. Could be a kill opportunity for the Oni Warriors here. Vote has used his ultimate, so should be the first kill of the game for the Oni Warriors, and it's Vote picking it up onto Haddix, and now there's a chase on the back end as well. The Oni Warriors want more, but watch out. Venenu cutting on backwards. Barracuda, he's not worried about this fight. He's still over in duo lane. It's a full retreat for the Bolts.
Barra did not get the memo from the rest of this Bolts team that a team fight is meant to be breaking out here. As Oni Warriors continue to try and chase down Olympus Bolts, but it's just too much mobility. Dolson, the cleanse from hell, more than enough to get the Olympus Bolts out of dodge. Meanwhile, the Oni Warriors, they spent this entire minute and a half or two only getting one pick in the process.
And here's what's scary, and it's a small window. Every single ultimate gets used by the Oni Warriors for one pick. So now if the Olympus Bolts can find a fight in this little area, they've got every single ultimate ready to go, despite an immediate numbers advantage as Haddix comes back from base. Awesome Jake on a bit of a different page from the rest of his team, lurks in the waters, dashes away, but Dardes has got the last tick of damage there, so maybe a changing of the tides here as the Oni Warriors have gotten a couple of kills. A leap onto Barracuda, who's got his ultimate still, finds Vote in the backline. Venenu picks up Neuma. Vote drops the crystal down, and he'll use it to get out to safety, but Haddix has returned from the grave, and he's hunting for Dardes.
Cubo Fred, meanwhile, trying to break away from Lasbra, but he's just being wailed on by this Erlong. Dardes also going to die right in front of his jungler's eyes as 3 members now standing dead. Awesome Jake due to respawn very shortly here for the Olympus Bolts, and Bolts just continuing to win out in these aggressive instances, Dolson. Only continuing to expand on their lead, and more importantly, it's the stuff after the stuff that the Bolts keep collecting. Oni Warriors, even if they find picks, have not really been able to escalate that into something more substantial like these Oni.
On their own time, let's see if we can bait someone in from the Oni Warriors. See what we can get done here. 1v1 over with the Hunters. Barracuda's losing this one. Has to use not only the beads, but the ultimate as well. So at least a small glimpse into what was an advantage until Dardes dies to Venenu here in the mid lane. Awesome Jake alone behind the tier 2 tower. And Dardes has not had much of an easier time than Cubo Fred or Neoma at 1 and 3.
And this is just what the Bolts do best. Just multiple instances of aggression. Venenu absolutely melting Cubo Fred. Neoma due to follow shortly after. If Awesome Jake's able to connect with this plug after the fact, Earth and Fury going to be expended in the process. It's a full-on Phoenix dive, but the Terra's still standing.
We're going Phoenix diving 16 minutes in. Neoma survives, so Awesome Jake, all right. Let's take a deep breath. Maybe we're not going underneath the Phoenix next time. There is still a tier 2 tower that the Bolts would have had to worry about there as well.
Next Primal Fury. They might take it just because they can. Why not? But on that same note, they very legitimately could just take the Fire Giant.
Hey, there you go. Good call, Taco. Fire Giant it is for the Olympus Bolts as Lazara finds some damage there. But instead, fighting will happen. Dardes is going to get pinned in place. There's a taunt to lock him down a little bit further, and that'll wait out the Aegis and the beads, but not enough to keep Dardes on the map. A pluck on Neoma sends him right back into the Lion's Den, and Lazara deals the final blow, and it's a double kill, and unstoppable is the Erlong Shen, and now seems like a matter of time till the FG goes down.
A little bit more painful still is understanding that Neoma actually expended that Cursed Ankh. It's not even upgraded Cursed Ankh yet, but cooldown's still going to be gone for about a minute and a half or so, so that's definitely a period of time. The Olympus Bolts likely going to wind up just backing after collecting T2 towers. So when you're entering these engagements already a man down, it's going to be hard to walk away from them cleanly, and I think that that was the primary issue here for the Oni Warriors, that the Bolts, they'd find a pick, and then they'd immediately transition that lead into some form of objective play or invades on buffs. And not only that, but I also think that Lazara has done a fantastic job as well at kind of bamboozling the likes of the Oni Warriors. Whenever they do actually group, well, that's just prime pickings for the Erlong on his ultimate.
Yeah, 9 turns blessing has looked good from Lazara. Dardes does not have beads, but everyone else on the Oni Warriors does. So that's at least a bit of a happy note if Lazara's able to get in, find a big taunt here. It's a 3-2 split. Olympus Bolts probably feeling fine with a one-man disadvantage at any point here in this game. So left side Phoenix getting tanked up by Awesome Jake. Venenu will eat a couple of shots as Jake dropped the aggro here. Rotation back in from the Olympus Bolts. They're going to collapse over on the left side Phoenix. Cubo Fred has to leap away underneath the mid lane Phoenix. Now Venenu takes some damage here. Remember, we've seen Vote swinging out some auto attacks. He's going to have to do a little bit more than that in this final fight. Uh-oh, the health bars of the Olympus Bolts getting a little bit too low for comfort, but Lazara's alone in the back line. He's already gotten a kill on a Cubo Fred. Vote will get the shutdown. Big gold to the Oni Warriors Hunter.
But the damage has already been done. Left side Phoenix has fallen in favor of the Olympus Bolts. The base officially penetrated here by the Bolts, and they'll be more than content to just back off, reset, heal up as much as they need to. Awesome Jake Haddock still looking a little unhealthy, but sure to be topped off soon enough with Venenu on this hell. And mid Phoenix definitely potential to be aggressed upon. Only Nika having that Tiamat child of creation to work with.
Well, Lazara's down, but so is Cubo Fred. Cubo Fred's going to be closer to the fight on the respawn if we get that far. Awesome Jake takes a lot of damage here as well. Vote is doing nuts damage in these last couple of fights. Top player damage in the game right now.
Giant, they can just begin their assault on the Oni Warriors base, because keep in mind, with that left side Phoenix still being down for the next minute or so, if Oni Warriors lose 2 or 3 members or more, that could very well be the end of the game here, Dave, as long as the Olympus Bolts are all 5 strong in tow.
Bit of a different look at a Hunter build for Barracuda. We're so used to seeing all the bow builds that it's going to be a Cavell. There's a bow. Followed up by Aussie, Xe. Good old Wind Demon Deathbringer Rage. We saw that one plenty of times. So Barracuda, no Rage stacks just yet, but does have the potential to swing here with the likes of Vote if a big fight breaks out.
Barra knows that his sole duty right now, other than just hitting the Phoenix while his team is tanking up those shots for him, is to be the Mage Slayer. He needs to kill Nika or Dardes incredibly quick, because again, it's all of this mage clear on the minion waves. That's the only form of hesitation right now for the Bolts. So when Awesome Jake or Lazara or Haddock decides to finally commit, Barra knows his primary focus should definitely be towards trying to kill either the Tiamat or the Morgan Le Fay outright.
That was an awkward moment for the Oni Warriors. Left side Phoenix respawns and then immediately dies to the fire minions that were there. A couple fire minions are going to make their way onto the Titan. Not necessarily must defend status just yet for the Oni Warriors, but is going to get there as the waves continue to go in. Lazara uses the 9 turns blessing. There will be a heal here in just a moment on the back end. Nearly gets the Titan all on his own. Now, the Olympus Bolts have pressed down on the gas on the right side of this fight. Neoma throws up the walls, but only him is in between. Jake with a little bit of shielding keeps him in the fight for a little bit, but not long enough. And the opening kill of this fight goes to the Oni Warriors. It's immediately answered back though by Barracuda, but watch out, those health bars melting down.
And the Bolts are actually sent to retreat. Titan taking some blows in the process. And the Olympus Bolts, they don't want to waste any more time. Lasbra did manage to deal a fair bit of damage towards that mid-Phoenix, but Bolts still had their eyes set on this right-hand Phoenix. Right now, Dart is the primary one being sent back to try and clear. But that Titan HP, also not looking particularly healthy. Might be best for the Olympus Bolts, though, to reassess and maybe look towards that mid-Phoenix.
Yeah, this is tough. Look, Jake is down, and they've had a hard time engaging on Devote as the Heimdall steps forward, lets the auto attacks fly, and he's caught out one with his ultimate to save Dardas in the back, but Barracuda's been able to do the same on the other side of this fight. Haddox crashes back down to earth, but he stands strong a little bit longer. Nika dead for 50 seconds. Is the numbers advantage enough? Is the gold advantage enough? Well, the fire minion advantage might finally be enough. The Olympus Bolts, they stumble a bit, but they won't make any mistakes here at the end. They'll take game number 1.
Respect to Nika with the Hail Mary decision. He was trying to kill Barracuda at the very end there, Dolson, but unfortunately bit off a little bit more than he could chew.
Just dominated what we saw in this game. Lasbra in particular was off to a great start. Really put pressure on the map early. Didn't have to worry too much about the Terra because he was killing people that weren't named Neil Ma, so it didn't really matter to him. Just really clean right side of the map domination. And that's what happens whenever you pick these mage solos. You know, maybe you won't get super far behind. Nika didn't get destroyed or anything like that, but Lasbra got really far ahead. Haddox got really far ahead. Fred fell really far behind, and then all of a sudden it's, hey guys, I'm ready to do stuff as the Tiamat, but the rest of the team was not.
I tweeted it out, but I'll say it here on broadcast as well. Cubo Fred, he only got 1 kill in that set, or in that game, I should say. Hopefully it doesn't stay at 1 kill for the set, but it was his 2500th kill for the 2500th kill for his career. Only one other player by the name of Adapting has crested that threshold. I'm going to have to go through and re-double check this. There were a couple that were close, but I know like Zapman, Barra are very close. I think Zap just hit 2,000. Barra is like 8 away now, I think, after that game or something around there. So, I'm going to go ahead and bump it up. It's definitely higher than 8 because it was like 30 at the start of this week, and he has not gotten that many kills so far. My personal recent memory that rivaled that was last year. Obey occasionally got low, but not that low even.
Yeah.
So definitely something to pick up here. Warriors going to be taking first pick away from the Bolts. And we'll see how that ends up faring for them. Now they have the option to first pick a Tiamat, or the Bolts have the option to lock in a Tiamat Morgan Le Fay in the event that the Warriors lock in an Osiris. But their bans last time, Ymir, Yemoja, Fafnir. Not much reason to change those 3. I mean, those 3 are very, I want to say, traumatic gods to play against.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't ban Yemoja because now the Warriors are in the first pick position and they can take that first overall for Neil. But other than that, I agree. I don't think you need to change it up. That being said, the Sobek play from Jake was really good in game number 1, so it doesn't really feel particularly good to ban 3 gods from a dude and then have his 4th pick still be looking really good. Sometimes that leaves you feeling like, what's the point of locking away those 3 gods and putting him on a 4th? And Jake's face, I think, tells the whole story in regards to that.
Part of me wants okay, I'm going to say this very carefully. Okay. There is part of me that wants to see the Bolts break the NRG record because I think that'd be really cool.
Agreed. There's
another part of me that at some point, especially if the Bolts continue on the trajectory that they have been, for them to secure maybe the win streak win. Maybe if they set another record, maybe they just make it 11. I don't really care. But then, whenever they do lose, if they lose in Phase 2, I want to see Jake pull out the tier support again. I just miss it. I think we saw it once or twice last year, and he hasn't touched it.
I feel like that should be the clinching game for the win streak record.
Oh, no.
Is that he locks in the tier support, right? Like, that's
literally
the
last game where it's like, all right, everything lies on this. If Jake does not pass this, they lose it all.
Yeah, and he locks in tier support. That would be fitting. A good chapter by Hindu Man script, but we'll see that point.
If he's listening right now, he's writing, typing furiously.
That's
he
right.
knows exactly what
oh,
he's
please,
changing.
it's already he's got it all lined up.
He locked it in January, but
That's right.
Look, you can edit. Look,
you can make some edits. You're allowed to make some edits along the way, for sure. The Warriors won't edit, though. They keep the same 3 bans, and that does surprise me because they're in a position where I really think that first picking Yemoja is probably good because I don't think the Bolts are going to do what the Warriors just tried to do, which is take both mages if away from you. I don't think that's going to be their game plan. So you could have traded mages and gotten Yemoja potentially, or forced the Bolts to at least ban the Yemoja, and then you find out that you've got a better pick a little bit down the line. So a little surprised that the Warriors don't change it up.
Yeah, the only thing they did change was just the order. It's Ymir, Fafnir, Yemoja instead of Ymir, Yemoja, Fafnir for their top 3. Odin, Terra taking the place of what was Artemis or Gilgamesh there in the first phase of bans for game number 1. So Bolt's trying to figure out which one they really do not want to deal with. That being said, there's a world where they ban, I was going to say a non-factor, let the Warriors get something like a Tiamat. They grab Morgan Le Fay and Artemis, but now they're still open for the Artemis.
Yes.
Until that happens.
This is what you take, I think. Honestly, I don't think it's that close, because Vote played really well in game 1. He is one of your win conditions. Get him the best tool. And like I said, I think that the gap between Artemis and the next best hunter is bigger than Tiamat and the next best mage. So I'm willing to make this trade if I'm the Oni Warriors, because I feel like I got the best god in their role by a pretty significant margin. And I'm giving it to a guy who I want to be a primary focus for our win.
What about between Tiamat and, let's say, maybe the third best mage? What I guess right now that'd be like Raijin? Overall,
yeah.
Still closer gap in the mages?
I think so. I still think there's a bigger gap. Yeah, even with Morgan Le Fay removed. Yeah, Tiamat to the next available mage is a smaller gap than Artemis to the next available hunter. So that would be my thought process if I'm the Warriors.
Well, they get the Artemis, and as you highlighted, good decision for them over there. It makes Vote feel very happy in the duel lane. They get Tiamat Osiris, though. Osiris has been treating the Bolts real well as of late. In fact, I'm wondering how exactly well it has been over, at least this week. They've been able to win, I believe, every game they got with him, and I can say that because they only got him last game, as it turns out, for this week. And so, I mean, this has been a good top 2 for the Bolts, but again, it still feels like so much is available. The Gilgamesh that was banned last time makes it through here. Presumably for Cuvo, Fred could end up going towards Nika. But that's the other pillar that we were talking about, and even Nika had highlighted it. Him and Vote are kind of the essentials for this to do really well. Everybody else can rise with them. And they go Gilgamesh Khepri, of all things here.
I don't mind it. I mean, like I said, I think that Neil is at his best when he's able to play that peel style on this team. That's where I think the Warriors are going to find the most success. Let Nika be your fight starter, and let Neil peel for Vote, peel for Dardes. So I like him on this Khepri. I think it makes a lot of sense. I like the Gilgamesh flex pick. I'm slightly concerned about where Dardes is going to go, because he's been pretty hot and cold this year. If I'm the Bolts, I'm probably banning Hera plus the Morrigan would probably be my 2 bans based on what Dardes has played this year. Disco makes sense if you're going to go Erlong Shen, where the cripple is going to really hurt you. But keeping Dardes off of some of his key picks and keeping him on his toes is a good strategy here for the Bolts.
The Discordia, as you had highlighted, banned out there. Went and checked it, by the way. Half the games so far, half of their wins for the Bolts, Osiris has been. You know what? Restart.
Okay.
Pause. Reset.
Okay. I was standing like this, so go ahead.
6 of their 16 games, they've managed to get Osiris, not including the last one, so that would make 7 out of 17 games as you add them up. And he's gotten 6 out of 7 wins. They've only lost with this Osiris once, which doesn't make things feel very hopeful for the Warriors. But then again, they haven't done a lot of losing this phase, so the stats kind of skew in the favor of the Bolts. You had called for it a little bit earlier, the Sobek being very devastating when you push Jake onto his 4th pick, and it's still really good, so they opt to ban the 4th pick.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get 5 Guardian bans here if you're the Warriors, and it's Xing Chen plus the Terra ban on the other side, though, like I talked about in Game 1, I don't think Terra is really the direction that Jake really wants to go. So maybe this is your tier support game here, Gore. I mean, a lot of things banned, and they're letting Jake get his last pick. If I'm the Oni Warriors here, I think this is an easy Hera lock-in. And to be honest with you, I don't know why it feels like we've had to drag Dardes to the point of picking his most iconic god. Like, he's played it like once, and he looked really good on it, and hasn't gone back to it. Didn't play it before that. You've got a Khepri there to protect it. You want your strong backline. It's up against the Erlong Shen. Give me some Hera here for Dardes.
No, either I put the thought there, or Nika wasn't lying when he was saying, well, I've been playing it a lot on stream, so we're going to have that. I'm going to say maybe I helped a little bit formulate.
Wait. Actually, don't say it now. If he does well, it's because you helped. If he does poorly, who knows why?
And it's same thing here with the Hera that just got locked in. If it does well, it's all on you. If not, That was Dardes' decision.
Right,
I don't
but
know
why would
anything about
Dardes
it.
pick that? I would never want him to pick that.
So Bologna, so first off, second game that we get to see Bologna this year, all of a sudden, twice today.
Whoa.
Hera getting locked in as well. You had just harped on why that's going to be really great. Geb, again, when, 6 Guardians are banned out, it kind of does limit how many you could go to. Kumba, like there's not a lot.
Like they did in game 1, might pose a few more issues when dealing with the likes of a Gilgamesh and Bologna.
Could it be the full 10 benevolence, though, is the question. Nika was the lone holdout in game number 1. Went Vampiric Shroud, but the only players who haven't bought benevolence yet, and there's 6 of them, have started their builds in a way that shows maybe benevolence moving into the future. Couple fighters masks, couple tier 2 items in the mid lane. I say that more from a jokey meme standpoint, where come on, let's just get all 10 at this point. We've gotten 8 at one point, we got 9 last game. Let's just get all 10 and get it over with. Maybe we'll get there this game.
This might actually be the moment, Dolson, where we see a full 10 squad strong benevolence factor come into play here, and low pick rate is going to start to come a little bit higher up here.
Yeah, what do we think?
I
Looks
actually
good
like
earlier,
Bologna
right?
right
Got a
now.
solo kill in our first set of the day.
Trendsetters.
So you think?
Dragons.
I mean, look, I love this pick. It's such a unique pick, and unfortunately, hey, Bo doesn't have his beads, and there's a body block there from Barracuda, and Awesome Jake deals the final bit of damage. Artemis, somewhat immobile, no beads, thanks to Jake a few moments ago. And that'll be the Olympus Bolt's first blood. At least it's on to Awesome Jake.
Worst time possible, though, because the purple buff is about to respawn here, Dolson. So, prime opportunity if the Olympus Bolts wish to act on it to look for a purple buff invade. Though we'll have to keep in mind that Vote's going to come back to the lane with that T2. Hold that thought, though, because it's Nika under fire. Lasbro preemptively beadsing with a dropkick from Cubo Fred as he tries to save the life of his soul laner, but nice job by Haddix to take
Is there going to be a chase down onto Cubo Fred, though? There's going to be a little bit of damage at the end here if Haddix was going to throw it out, but still too healthy as Cubo Fred. And the Oni Warriors blue buff is still up. So this is just tough for Cubo Fred. He's not going to be able to get in there and take this game as it goes on. Is that they're all bought in the same spot here as well. I'm not going to get to expand on that any further. Awesome Jake rolls out, blinks forward, tries to knock up Vote, who send out the old Tusky there to delay that engage. But you can get the idea here from Awesome Jake. They call Geb a slightly less aggressive type pick, but when it's Awesome Jake playing it, I think you got to be wary at all times.
I just know for a fact Barracuda has got to be mauling right now at the fact that the Caledonian boar really waits to strike until after he's dismounted and mounted archery. Awesome Jake, though, could be in some trouble. Rollout going to get caught out.
Dardes is here as well, and there's Argus. Cubo Fred gets the Oni Warriors' first kill of the game, and that means Lasbra and Barracuda will have to scatter on back to their Tier 1 tower. Purple buff's about to come up as well, so you talked a moment ago about how it was unfortunate timing for Vote to die because their purple buff was up. Could have been unfortunate for the Bolts there.
Of the Olympus Bolts, they were the ones who took it out last game to start their Fury on just taking away that Gold Fury as it kept respawning.
This Venenu feeling a little aggressive towards Dardes here. Likely not a kill, and there won't be. But still a little damage makes its way onto Hera. Oni Warriors now invading the Olympus Bolts. Blue buff here. Haddix wants to get aggressive. It's Lord of the Afterlife fused onto Cubo Fred, who used the beads just a moment ago, but there's no further chase. And so Cubo Fred will a little bit of that damage. And I think Dardes has got a big role to play here in this game. Aggro loves the Hera pick here for Dardes. I think we all do to an extent because Dardes has proved that he can play it. As Venenu rotates through, helps with the blue or red buff invade, but here comes Argus from Dardes. Polymorph just off to the side of Venenu. Argus still chasing down Ven, but likely stops on the minion wave there. Barracuda helps out from the duo lane, but no kills in the mid lane, but one very low Tiamat.
Just a lot of rotations coming out of both sides. Cubo barely managing to survive underneath his T2 tower. Hold that thought, though. Jake wants this.
Oh, unfortunate. Cubo Fred makes it back to base. Awesome Jake on his journey to the right side of the map, unsuccessful. Nika at least got his blue buff. So the Olympus Bolts put some pressure on the blue. Both teams have put pressure on blue through the onset of this game. Only once, though, has it resulted in a kill for Haddix. That's being pulled away here. So we're far from sounding the game over alarms here for the Oni Warriors. But you imagine, Taco, around things like maybe this Gold Fury, the Oni Warriors might need to say something because the Olympus Bolts are doing it quickly. Half HP remaining on the objective. Look at the front line. Look at the wall that the Bolts have built up around the Fury Pit. They're not giving the Oni Warriors a chance to poke their heads in.
Just no one really in position to respond, even if the Oni Warriors...
The thing, it's like the small individual objectives aren't going to end the game, but if the Oni Warriors don't feel comfortable at any point contesting these objectives, that's when things get a little bit more scary. This time, the Oni Warriors will poke their heads around the corner, gets delayed out just for a moment, reset by the Olympus Bolts, and well timed. The Pyromancer still not taken, finally does get confirmed by the Olympus Bolts, and Lasbra's a little bit low here. So is Venenu as Cubo Fred has found the mid laner, and the Bolts smart enough, I think, to back off.
A great pool, though, of Venenu's Purification Beads, so that does provide a power play opportunity for the Oni Warriors if they choose to group and maybe look to barrage down this mid lane. Cubo in a little bit of trouble as Haddix continues to chase him, but Haddix incredibly low on mana.
Haddix will use the beads to avoid the dropkick. Winds of Shema swirls around a couple members of the Olympus Bolts. Cubo Fred with the Scarab's Blessing gets pulled on back, but now it's Venenu pulled on back, and Nika grabs the kill, but Barracuda able to answer back with a 1-for-1 trade. Cubo down, Venenu down. It looks like that's all we've got.
That dual lane flank wraparound from the Olympus Bolts.
Trying to annoy Dardes out a little bit. Beads weren't there. Actually, beads used kind of in conjunction here by Cubo, Fred, Dardes, and Nika. Vote uses the board here as Lasbra uses his set of beads. Roll out from Awesome Jake, gets him right back in range. All the polymorph from Dardes is enough, and Volt will live on. And Lasbra has to turn tail and get on out. There's a Sunder for Numa on the other side. Now that's going to only be for the next 30 seconds or so wouldn't be super surprised if the Oni Warriors didn't try to engage. That's not going to mean that the Bolts won't try to engage. A double knockup from Lasbra's Vote continues to swing away, but look at the body blocks. Look at the peel from Awesome Jake. Scarab's Blessing is there on Vote. Can you wait this out is the question. Venenu is in for an insurance policy. Barracuda waits it out. Barracuda gets the kill.
And now Neomon could be in some trouble because he doesn't have that Scarab's Blessing available any longer. A nice dropkick, though, from Cubo Fred to create some space for the Khepri to start his escape, but have to keep eyes on Haddix here as he's looking for the wraparound collapse. Oni Fury, they have a strong enough grouping now with Nika's rotation, and Lasbra is still trailing on the other side of the map. This could be an Oni Warriors power play instance on the Oni.
Oracles are here, or they were here, so the Olympus Bolts know this one's happening. The Oni Warriors maybe just testing to see how the Bolts' reaction time would be. Haddix uses Lord of the Afterlife to engage, and he's got the backline in a bit of an awkward spot, but watch Nika follow up on Venenu and Argus. Healing out for the mid laner, but Barracuda's having none of it. Cubo Fred gone on the backside of this fight. Nika desperately trying to find at least one, but Barracuda's got plenty of damage to slow that down. Scarab's Blessing popped, but look at the rest of the Bolts here. They're somewhat low. Awesome Jake has got to throw some peel in here for his Hunter, but there's not enough. 3-man Cataclysm. That'll set up for some big damage from Venenu.
And Venenu is still trying to keep this aggression going. Argia is getting boxed out right now by Lasbra. Vote, though, just too low on mana to perform. Darda's going to get knocked up. Have to keep in mind, though, where that Transgressor's Fate is at as Venenu looks to try and take out Dardas.
Lasbra should be able to chase this one down, and Dardas left alone with Ven and Awesome Jake, so this should be another kill over to the Olympus Bolts. It's just a matter of who, and it's just a matter of when. So it looked great there for a minute, Taco. The Oni Warriors, they get at least a kill in that fight, and the Olympus Bolts had only found 1 or 2. And then by the end of it, it's basically a 4-kill swing for the Olympus Bolts and an Oni Fury, likely, barring a steal, on the backside of the fight.
Barracuda just came up huge there for the Olympus Bolts. He was able to channel all that aggression focus from Nika, from Neilma, forces out the Scarab's Blessing, and pulling everyone away from siphoning funds into the Pro League directly.
He is. The Benevolence Fund, supported by Mifflin, yours truly, and we thank him for it. And the Olympus Bolts definitely thank him for it. This gold lead has climbed up to almost exactly 6 or 7K here at this point. Cubo Fred will be gone before my own eyes as Venenu will send out a volley of damage. Neilma's got to be careful here because Awesome Jake has done this a whole lot. The follow-up is there from Dardas, though. It's a 3-man knockup, and that means Vote will maybe turn this fight around, at least with 1 kill. The 4, though, big stuns, locks down 2 members of the Olympus Bolts. Now Dardas finally gets a kill on the board. Olympus Bolts, they get 2. That's an even fight back from the Warriors.
Lasbra still limping away from this Argus. Wow. Meanwhile, Haddix, Barracuda, they'll be sent packing as well.
Both of these junglers here, both junglers on the bottom of the damage charts beneath a Khepri and a Geb. So at least for both teams, it's been even. I said he's not going to get Dardas, but I may have spoken too soon here. Look at the damage from the Erlong Shen. Scarab's Blessing used. That might be enough here for Lasbra, but watch out. Newma's pulled Lasbra right back in. Polymorph from range is there. and Lasbra way overextended. Nobody from the Bolts on that half of the map.
But the damage was definitely pretty nasty, Dolson. Had it not been for that Scarab's Blessing, Dardes was dead to rights.
Vote has had a hell of a set so far, even though you get kind of decimated in game 1 and you are behind here by a few thousand gold in game 2. Vote has been top of the player damage charts in back-to-back games. A chance to do so here. Argus, big value from Dardes in the front of this fight as the Olympus Bolts run on away from this FG pit. Awesome Jake locks Nika in place, but Haddix wants nothing more to do with this fight. And it looks like maybe Taco the Oni Warriors have done enough. They've gotten the Bolts low, and they forced the Bolts to run away. Now the FG restarted.
That was a great disengage, though, from the Olympus Bolts, and a beautiful initiation from Nika and Dardes, combining the forces of that Eagles rally and the Argus to get some great damage going. Cubo, though, going to try and make his descent back to the safety of his team, but Fire Giant doing some decent work into those HP bars from the Oni Warriors and Olympus Bolts. All they're trying to do right now, Dolson, is just delay. They are constantly backing. Neilmont could be in some trouble here, too.
No. Oh, that would have been horrible, and it is horrible as Venenu gets the kill on a Neilmont. The health bars, they were so low for the Olympus Bolts, but I think you word it right there. One by one, the Bolts go back, refresh the health bars, and come back into the fight, and then the remaining members in the area of the Bolts just slowly whittled down the health bars of the Oni Warriors, and that means all 5 members of the Bolts will get the FG after it's started by the Warriors.
Oni Warriors basically co-signing for that Fire Giant in the Olympus Bolts' favor. They did all the dirty work.
They did it all.
Take it down to about 40% HP, and now it's going to be Vote just being absolutely rampaged upon by the likes of Haddix, Barracuda, and Lasbra. The staggering of these respawn timers now so problematic here for Oni Warriors. Losing Vote, their top player damage, now puts all the pressure back on. Of course, there always is, but this is a steep mountain to climb now, Dave, when you find yourselves putting yourselves behind, essentially. And I don't even think it was necessarily the Oni Warriors' fault by any means, not all the way at least, but the decision-making did seem a little bit split as to whether or not they should just full commit to that Fire Giant or full commit to another team fight, and neither decision really being 100%ed on by the Oni Warriors just leads to them losing out on both.
Right. In a moment like that, it feels like either choice would have worked out, but neither choice was really made, and the Olympus Bolts, and in a way, almost make the choice for the Oni Warriors. Now the Oni Warriors have got to put up a defense here. Haddix, half of his HP is gone. That's Dardes and Vote. But a little bit more of Neilmont's health has gone. Been a bit awkward for this Kepri. 0-3-5, not horrible, but 3 levels down from Awesome Jake. Haddix gets some of that health back over time. But it's going to take a minute here for maybe him to feel super confident. But Neilmont has to play super far back. Here's Zawkward. But the boar into the CC from Argus sets up a couple of kills now for the Oni Warriors. They were quiet. They baited the Bolts in and then let a volley of damage fly. Down go Jake. Down goes Barracuda and the rest of the Bolts that are left here. It's only 2 of them. They're left running. Mid lane Phoenix might die, but Venenu, he'll turn around. He'll get knocked up. He'll get taken out. Nika's got 2. And it's a big defense from the Warriors.
Lasbra, meanwhile, still just trying to strip away whatever farm he can find. Haddix knows he's just trying to lead the Oni Warriors on a wild goose chase. But this Argus, definitely problematic when combined alongside of Vote's ultimate here. That Artemis just decimating Barracuda's life force, and could be a response here from the Oni Warriors potentially for them to try and take the Olympus Bolts and Phoenix for themselves. However, Lasbra still hawking on the Oni Warriors side of the map. He's going to force Cubo Fred to stay back.
Well, he's got to be careful here because, look, Neilma and Vote are behind Lasbra. So Lasbra's either got to back or make his way through Vote, Dardes, and Neilma somehow, or else there's going to be a big stagger death timer. Does not dodge out the polymorph. Will have the transformation. Should, no, won't get Lasbra out to safety, and Vote picks up the kill. So now for a minute exactly.
I would like to see the Oni Warriors fight fire with fire here.
Yeah, I wonder if the Oni Warriors in the next 15 seconds are going to try to find a pick. Because the Fire Giant is here, and the pick might actually just be pulling the FG while Lasbra is still dead. You know, you got a little time, not only once, or while he's dead, but once he respawns, it'll take him a minute to get back into this fight. So the Oni Warriors agree. They'll send some damage the Fire Giant's way. The Olympus Bolts still standing strong. The 4 of them that are immediately here. Dardes could catch out Venenu on the left side with the polymorph here. Instead, Nika's going to start off the fight with the jump into the backline. Argus doesn't get the knock-up onto Venenu, but Venenu caught in place, but he'll use the Aegis. He'll jump over the wall. Now Awesome Jake stunned in place as well as both lets the boar fly. The shielding enough to keep Awesome Jake alive, and look at the damage from the rest of the Olympus bolts that's in there, but Cubo Fred with the Scarab Blessing stays alive a little bit longer.
Barracuda knows with that Kepri ultimate having already been used up, it's time for the aggression to keep going. Venenu finds one on the backside with the help of Haddix. Dart is going to be able to fall also, and yes, I think it might actually be Dolson because it's only Nika and Cubo left to defend against a fairly healthy Olympus Bolts 5-man strong roster here. And I'm just not sold that an Eagles rallyless and a Winds of Shamash-less Gilgamesh can do it.
It's an 8-set win streak on the line here for the Olympus Bolts, and I don't think they're going to make a mistake. A big team fight win 30 minutes in seals up the set, seals up the 8-set win streak for the Olympus Bolts. They've beaten everyone in the league, and now they're restarting their way back through. So they've beaten the Oni Warriors twice this phase.
Bolts always find a way to exploit these weaknesses. Of course, it was the Fire Giant pull that had all of us kind of shaking our heads at what was going on over there on the Fire Giant side of the map. But it started early, even in the dual lane, with Jake and Barra being aggressive with Geb Hachiman, like we all expected, of course. You know, Geb Hachi's so aggressive over there in the dual lane. I kid, of course, they are not. But the way that Barra and Jake were playing it, hard to tell. They really made him look good.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they showed up this game, solid for the Bolts, but I will give some good shout-outs to the Warriors. They made it a lot harder, a lot more difficult for the Bolts to win this game than it was in game number 1. A lot more fights going their ways, a lot more kills getting picked up between the beginning and the end there. Unfortunately, still meeting the same end. Lasbra, at one point, was, well, actually sitting in this exact area, maybe not this kill, not what I was thinking of, but showcasing what he is able to provide for his team, despite none of the rest of his team being there. He was just zoning away, forced the Warriors to stop what could have been a Phoenix push by falling back to deal with him, who was going for a second Phoenix push at the time. He's 2-2-8, maybe doesn't get all the kills. Vin goes 5-3-5. It's maybe not as just regularly kill-heavy as in game 1, but still a great performance from the Bolts.
Yeah, overall, the Bolts looking very good. I mean, it as advertised for the team that's in first place, but on the other side, I think that Vote had a really, really good set despite the 0-2 loss. Dardes again looked really good on Hera. Why do we have to beg him to play it? Feel like that should be the pick that we see from him more often than anything else.
I feel like every single season there's a little level up, but then when you start comparing it like Season 8 to Season 4, you get to see a real power difference. 8-0, 100% win rate up there at the top. Not something you get to see too often when you're finishing week number 5 for phase number 2 here. Everybody else still playing catch-up. Kings, one game technically ahead of the Dragons there. We'll see how this continues on because as you saw this week, well, a lot of 2-0 still to be had tomorrow. Kings able to potentially further themselves up there in that second place spot.